Hey guys, this is Kyojin Anime, and today I'll be talking about 10 of the most common anime character types. The first character type that I'll be talking about is probably also the most commonly known one, and it's tsundere. Tsundere is basically a combination of two things. It's tsuntsun and dere. Tsuntsun basically means, well, being unfriendly, kind of, being cold or whatever. And dere basically means being soft, friendly, affectionate, and so on. Well, basically the typical tsundere is either both at once. So at one point in time she may be kind of cold, and then the next second she can kind of be friendly and nice and whatever. And this is the quick tsundere transition. And there is also a slow tsundere transition, which basically starts with the character being cold and unfriendly and gradually becoming more friendly and nice and whatever. Examples for the first type, and perhaps one of the most canonic examples for tsundere in the first place, is Naru from Love, Hina. An example for the second type, so for a tsundere which basically starts out all cold all the time and gradually goes more mellow, is perhaps Suzuka from Suzuka. Basically the anime is basically named after her. So another classic example is perhaps Lum from Urusei Yatsura, an example which is a kind of an arguable tsundere because not everyone agrees that she's actually tsundere, is Asuka from Evangelion, because Asuka she's kind of crazy. I mean, well, you could argue that she's tsundere, but she's probably 95% tsuntsun and like 5% dere. And if those 5% are dere, I don't know. Arguable, I'd say. Yeah, some more examples. Kosaka Kirino from Ore no Imouto. Another one is Chitoge from Nisekoi. And of course, Kugimi Arie, one of my favorite seiyuu and a really popular seiyuu. She's called the Queen of Tsundere, and lots of her characters are real straightforward tsundere in the classical sense, like Louise from Zero no Tsukaima, which you can see on my shelf. Taiga from Toradora, a couple more, I think Shana, or she has so many tsundere roles, I don't remember them all. So yeah, that's basically the core description for the tsundere character type. Another fairly classic character type is kudere. The combination of components here is basically kuru, means cool, and again dere meaning soft. So this is a kind of a character who is really rather reserved, introverted, cool, but also sometimes displays her or his soft side. Most of the time such characters are pretty distant and calm, and only sometimes have a few scenes where they kind of open up a little bit. And some of the typical examples, perhaps the one archetype example, is the iconic Ayana Mirai from Evangelion, who is the kind of opposite pole to Asuka, which I've just mentioned. Probably can be argued that kudere kind of more or less started with her, although there definitely were other kudere characters before her, but she kind of popularized it and made it kind of mainstream. And there have been so many Ayana Mirai clones in anime since then, basically all the same, blue hair and whatever. Some more examples of a kudere type is, for example, Mikasa Ackerman from Shingeki no Kyojin. She's kind of cool 100% of the time, maybe 95% of the time, but when Eren is getting, beaten up, she's like, Eren. Some others are Nagata Yuki from Haruhi, classic kudere, really absolutely, well, she's a android actually, like a computer. Well, is she even actually an android? She's kind of an alien actually, sorry. So yeah, basically the computer type Mr. Data personality. Another one is Sakaki from Azumanga Daioh, who is also kind of very reserved, introverted, but when there is some kind of cute little Neko around, she goes all dere. So yeah, that's it for the kudere type. A slightly less well-known character type is dandere, which comes from danmari, for basically staying silent, and again dere dere. Usually those are the really super shy and calm characters, but they're slightly more on the social side than kudere, and they're more easily embarrassed typically. So some of the probably more classic characters are, for example, Hyuga Hinata from Naruto, or Kuronoma Sadako from Kimi ni Todoke. That's what can be said about this character type. So it's really not especially remarkable usually. Personally, I'm not exactly a big favorite of this type of character, but yeah, Naruto married her, so... Now, one really fun character type, and also one that probably quite a few people have heard about, is Yandere. This basically is built from yang, which means kind of crazy, insane, and again dere. So, and the Yandere character, I mean, there is lots of them, and their central feature is that they're crazy. So they basically act like maniacs, and their affection for the guy or girl or whatever, usually it's the guy, who's the target of affection, it's way overboard, and if they're extremely jealous usually, and usually their love is kind of one directional. Probably the one super classic yandere is Gasayuno from Mirai Nikki, who is just bipolar to an extent that it's kind of hardcore. I mean, yeah. But yeah, she actually has reasons for that, and she wasn't always like that. So if you watch Mirai Nikki, the end of it is actually not too bad. Some more crazy ones are Kotonoha Katsura and Seikai Sayonji from School Days, but well, again, School Days is kind of it's kind of crazy in the first place. I mean, the endings they're nasty. Well, one more character that one could call yandere is Nishikinomiya Anna from Shimoneta, although perhaps she's kind of a soft yandere. She doesn't really go as far as to, whip out knives and all those kinds of things and run around after the guy. Now, in the most recent season, one really classic character, Yama Akane in Renai Bokun, who is almost a parody of a yandere character because she's really she's so yandere that it hurts. So but yeah, it's a comedy and it's actually pretty fun to watch, so if you haven't yet seen it, I recommend to check it out. Another relatively mainstream type of character is Genki, which can be translated as basically enthusiastic, energetic, something like that, basically the choleric maybe type in real life. Usually such characters are very happy, optimistic, bubble around and so on, and generally tend to act on impulse. Still, it's a very nice character type and one that I personally like a lot. Some examples include, for example, Lime from Saber Marionette J, Tomo from Azumanga Daioh, she's the more stupid type of Genki, or Ritsu from K-On! One type of character which is perhaps a little bit more difficult to explain to an English or non-Japanese speaking audience is Bokuko. And this basically refers to the Japanese personal pronouns. So normally in regular polite Japanese you use watashi for myself or me. But this is a relatively feminine form, and guys will, especially young guys, boys and so on, will usually use boku or ore in a version that's probably the most manly hardcore version of me, ore-sama. Yeah, ore-sama would be extremely extremely macho, so there are more, but when a girl uses boku, this is kind of very tomboyish way of speaking, and it's relatively uncommon for older girls, and usually it's limited to teenagers. But still, in anime there are quite a few characters which use this kind of speaking. So for example, it's Makoto Kino or Sailor Jupiter from Sailor Moon, Ukyo Konji from Ranma 1/2, 2/1, Shido Hikaru from Magic Knight Rayearth, or Kikuchi Makoto from The Idol Master, and lots more. This type of character is also pretty nice, I think, because it's usually kind of a tomboy, and I like tomboyish characters. They're nice. One more of my favorite types of characters is Ojo or Ojo-sama, which basically stands for lady or princess or whatever. Well, princess would be literally Hime, but it's basically the same thing. This is simply explained, and it's probably an attitude which is relatively common with quite a few real-life women as well. Princess, you know. So when you think that the whole world revolves around you and nobody else, then you are Ojo. Probably. I mean, from the attitude you would be Ojo, but normally you should have a little bit more than just the attitude to be Ojo. Usually in the Ojo-sama types also have, you know, they're the daughter of some rich zaibatsu or corporation, and they have a mansion, they have a butler and whatever. That's the typical Ojo. And for example, in Ladies Against Butlers, everybody is an Ojo, almost everybody. There are actually several slightly different subtypes for an Ojo or Ojo-sama character. There can be an extremely arrogant and in-your-face Ojo-sama type of character. Yeah, so for example, Sernia Aori Flameheart from Ladies and Butlers, a classic arrogant Ojo-sama. But there is also a more quiet and polite type of Ojo-sama, who is a really refined and a nice person actually, just with really good manners and so on, very good upbringing. Ojo from Gyaruko-chan, who is literally called Ojo because it's her nickname, but yeah, she's kind of Ojo in her own ways. And some more characters like that are, for example, Shirai Kuroko from Kagaku no Railgun. Although again, here it could be argued that she is not quite Ojo. I mean, she's a little bit snotty and arrogant, but she doesn't quite have the necessary background. Although, well, yeah, from the character attitude, pretty much. A somewhat more special or niche character type is Dojiko, which basically is a combination again of Doji and Ko. Ko stands for girl, and Doji is basically clumsy or klutzy, whatever. The Dojiko is usually just a character who just stumbles over her feet all the time or drops stuff and whatever. And it's actually considered a bit of a cute characteristic, so sometimes when there is a kind of a comedy series going on, people will joke around that she's a Dojiko, that makes her so kawaii, or some other you know, kinds of role specific characters which are not necessarily personality related, but more superficial, include stuff like Meganeko. Yeah, and Dojiko as well is basically someone like Sahina Mikuro from Suzumiya Haruhi, classic Dojiko. Maybe Takara Miyuki from Lucky Star, somewhat less of a Dojiko perhaps, but also quite a Dojiko. Or Hirasawa Yui from K-On! One more pretty fun type of character is basically Chuni, or kind of a shortened version of Chuunibyou, and this refers to Chugakko Ninen, so the second year of junior high school, and it's basically a type of character who is kind of caught up in teenage delusions and doesn't want to accept reality. There are quite a few series which go into this phenomenon, and of course probably one of the better known ones is Chuunibyou Demo Koi ga Shitai, which basically means I'm Chuunibyou but I still wanna love somebody. In this series, practically, I don't know, half of the characters are kind of Chuni. So of course Rika, Dekomori just rules. If you check out this Dekomori, the best. And also technically Yuta and Mori-sama formerly, also kind of Chuni, and a couple more smaller side characters. Perhaps it could also be said that Megumin from KonoSuba is a kind of Chuni character. Yeah, Tsushima Yoshiko from Love Live Sunshine, and one of the central characters from Aura Marin Koga Saigo no Tatakai, or basically the last war of Marin Koga. Basically both of the main characters there are heavily Chuni, like to an extent that it could be considered a kind of a psychological disorder. So yeah. Now the last character type I'll be talking about today is Tennen, which basically means natural or spontaneous. Such characters usually are kind of, you know, going along with the flow and not really thinking about what they're doing. They're somewhat similar to Genki, but perhaps less on the energetic and proactive side. Tennen characters sometimes also have certain common areas with Ojo-sama types, because basically they lack common sense, they lack experience about the outside world, and they just kind of do really strange and stupid things, although they don't really understand what they're doing. So often this term is paired with bokeh, so basically idiot or stupid, so Tennen bokeh, in a comedic routine which is known as manzais, or kind of a duo comedy routine, which consists of a bokeh and tsukomi. Tsukomi is the guy who is making counterpoints with common sense, which you also very often see in anime. And some examples of the Tennen character type are Sekiyotsu Taro from Sayonara Zetsubo Sensei, Tsuiri Kumin from again Chuunibyou, or Yamada from Working. And of course quite a few more. Okay, so that's it for the 10 common character types in anime. There's actually a few more, I think, but I just wanted to keep it more or less limited, and maybe I'll do another video on this sometime later. Anyhow, thanks for watching. See you next time. Arigatou gozaimasu. Mata ne.